Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Climbing the Ladder, episode 56. I'm your host, ChanmanV, and co-host every single week, and as always, my good buddies, John Clark and Richard Lewis. What's up, fellas?
What's up?
I'm just waiting for a derogatory term to come out of Richard's mouth right now. But
You've got to keep me up to date with these things, Chris, so I may put my foot in it.
Oh, God. But I'd like to welcome to the show a guy I've been talking to. I think we've been going back and forth since maybe November or October or something like that, and it's taken like about 8 months to finally figure out a time, or at least for us to figure out a time that we could even talk. But it's none other than Christian Lord, aka Hellspawn. What's going on, buddy?
It's all good. Yeah, I'm sorry to have dodged this show for so long. I'm glad to be here. It's always hard to make time.
He wanted to make sure that the show was legit before he came on.
No. I think I watched maybe even the first one, but I think you've been mostly on Tuesdays though.
Yeah, it was on Tuesdays before, and that was usually the issue, right? With the good videos.
There was this show that kept running into ours on purpose, purposely, hey, let's go an hour longer, and see if we can't take away from CTL. But we're okay. We got past that.
So actually, I had to come on the good show this week so I can be on this show, because otherwise I felt I was screwing around with the guys. So. Doing double shows this week instead.
That's all good. It's all good. No, but you the good show's not the same without you, so it's good to see you back on that show. Well, I figured this week. Well, originally I was just gonna, kind of go through DreamHack and, maybe talk a little bit about Rakaka with you, because nobody ever gets a chance to talk about Rakaka with you. But so many little good topic tidbits came up late this week, so I figured it'd be remiss of us not to talk about this, especially with you on here, Hellspawn. So why don't we go through?
We're becoming a new show, Chris. It's everything you hated.
I know, talking about freaking news, man. Oh shit, let's just regurgitate stuff. The fifth time. We're like last in the row, so the fifth time. No, but some of these things came up like yesterday and today, so I figured it'd be good to talk about since some of the other shows didn't. So let's kick it off. Let's kick it off with the whole Azubu talk that we've been kind of seeing with Reddit, and there's like a TL thread that's been going on for a while now, and recently I think we saw some updates where somebody linked, I think, some Korean sites that basically confirmed who the owner is of Azubu. I mean, that's always been kind of a mystery, right? Who owns Azubu and where's the money coming from?
And what is Azubu?
Yeah,
that's
what is Azubu? Yeah. So kind of showing you the Reddit, the TL thread right here, and here's that particular post that kind of links a couple of places. So it's looking like that the owner is I think I forget his full name, but I think his last name's Kim. And
Kim Sik-ki?
Yeah, Kim Sik-ki. Yeah, exactly.
Something I don't know.
And I mean, they label him as a financial criminal, but anyways, people are thinking that it's kind of a front. Azubu may be a front for some type of laundering scheme. So, what do you guys think about all this?
Well, I've actually been following it since that Team Liquid thread got started. Just because I was interested, obviously I'm a huge fan of Violet's, and he's with Azubu, and there was a lot of traction going on with Azubu, with the pickup of I know him by his Twitter name, Garvey or whatever, and CSL, and there's just so much going on, and yet no one really knew what Azubu was, and then someone started up this thread, so I kind of kept my eye on it and followed through it, and then just recently, in the last day, there's been some updates in regards to information that was apparently not true about what Azubu was who Azubu was claiming to be, where their offices were, and such. And it was just really interesting. So definitely something that I've kept an eye on, and I'd love to find out more, because this sort of thing has happened before, and I would hate to see it happen again, where everyone gets their hopes up that some company's coming in and making a huge push into esports, and the whole time it was really just a money grab, or something even worse. So I'm definitely curious and want to keep up on it.
Hellspawn, what do you think?
I take the same kind of view on it. From the beginning, it was very not understandable. Where they come from, why do they spend this much money, especially on League of Legends from the beginning. Also, like hearing people visiting their office in Korea, it seems like all the employees just played games and didn't have like a purpose to do at work. And actually, I did interview with one of the Azubu players some year ago, and when asking what is Azubu and what do they do, actually, I was asked to cut that part out. So it's for
Really?
sure been like kept in the dark. Still, I would say like from an organizer perspective, Azubu has been overall not so hard to reach and contact to. However, mostly I've talked with Andrew, who's a personal manager of Violet, so that's a different story, of course. So for me, when they launched this stream site, it felt like, okay, this is the core business. They put out the name. They are going big now. They're gonna like compete with Twitch, and they signed CLG. Everything like looked so big and promising, and then like nothing. I don't think I've visited the site since the launch almost. I did it today because of this article and this Reddit thread and this news item, but I don't know. Azubu is really strange, and I'm not so surprised. It seems to be like a crook from Korea who's banned in Korea who did like fraud in the 90s.
Yep.
It seems to be another dude in Germany who did more or less the same thing. So it just seems to be so strange in this business. And the good part,
I'm just curious, how are they? I mean, how would they be making anything right now? Like, it just seems like a huge influx of money into the industry, which of course everyone is like, wow, this is great. But how are they making money? I mean, it's the same thing with Raid Call too, and we can just glaze over that now too. But Raid Call's in the same boat. Like, it's a lot of money into the industry, but how are they making money from the industry?
If the purpose of the business was to be money laundering, it wouldn't matter if it made no money at all, of course.
exactly.
Right, true.
So just throwing that out there, you know.
And I think that's the good part. Maybe if that's the case with Azubu, that actually they put in a lot of money. Okay, they go away and the money goes away, but I don't really see it hurting esports at all. I think it's a different story when someone is actually tricking a lot of people, promising, you know, opportunities, and then nothing comes out of it, and maybe people just lend the money or like, okay, I'm getting paid next month, but they didn't get paid. So I think I assume that Azubu still have paid everybody, like tournament organizers and teams and players, and I don't know. Maybe it still can be some fruitful business, but I doubt it. I don't think there is any business. This seems to say no sound now. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. That's my bad. So getting back at it, I think the implications though of
You
having
made such a good point there, Chris, as well, bro. It was like,
take two on the points. All right. So no, I just think that there's a huge implication for having a company like Azubu, who is still, they are paying the money. The money is going to people right now. Having them kind of plant their roots in the esports industry, and then potentially just going away one day, and a lot of teams will still be in bad situations if that happens. If they create these, let's just say CSL was just all Azubu, for instance, right? And CSL couldn't exist without Azubu. I mean, if they create this amazing thing and then they disappear one day, then it's a really bad thing. I mean, thankfully Azubu and CSL have kind of split ways, I think, early on, but you can imagine a scenario where they just like establish something huge and then boom, something crazy happens with Azubu and they're not for real, right? And it all goes away. It has a big impact on esports, even though like no money was really stolen from anybody, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely agree a little bit with what Hellspawn is saying, in the sense that they're not robbing from anyone. Well, not within esports anyway. But I think the problem we've got is that when we look at the industries, as a whole, and if you've got anyone that's kind of committing a fraudulent act or if they're using esports as a front for other activity, it actually does hurt the business. Not just because they could go away. Sometime they may have to pull out all of their resources and get rid of it, or they might all get arrested and go to jail, or for whatever reason. But ultimately, it's about that legitimacy of the business as a whole, and it definitely impacts on that and the perceptions about esports. For example, with this story coming out, who's going to want to do business with Azubu? I mean, they're going to be having to do some serious damage limitation, and even then, I don't think it's going to be enough to kind of help cement their position as, whatever it is they want to be, whether it's a rival to Twitch or whatever. And for anyone who thinks as well that you don't get dodgy things going on in esports, like if people are thinking in the back of their mind, there's definitely no money laundering going on in esports. Like, people are just exaggerating and jumping to conclusions. I'll tell you about a company I used to work for, which was one called Amiga Sector with a K, Sector. They're really cool and hip and down with the kids. And they run LAN centers. They have a lot of them in Kazakhstan. It was the biggest LAN center in the UK. And I was a manager there. It was kind of my job to bring business into it. And the business model was fucking great. It had to be full, 70%. Right? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, the one where they had CGS. It had to be full 70% of the time, 100% of the time. It had to be full 70%. I sounded like the guy from Anchorman there. It had to be full to 70% capacity, 100% of the time, or it made no money. So basically, we hemorrhaged about 20 grand a month in cash, and we were all wondering how the fuck this business was being propped up. And of course, the guys from Kazakhstan were pumping loads of money into it, and then all the staff were getting paid cash out of a safe. It was all very dubious. None of us could figure out like what the fuck was going on. And then just one day we got told, yeah, we're closing it, and but when we're sending all the equipment back to Kazakhstan, you're not going to need it. But we don't want to pay import tax. So the whole staff had to sit there scrubbing off like the made in China stickers.
Oh my God.
Of like Razor mice and stuff. That was how we spent like the last 2 weeks in Amiga Sector. So if you think that there isn't like dodgy businesses out there that would quite happily have a front just for the purposes of laundering money, don't believe it. Like, because believe me, esports is still living in the fucking dark ages.
Right.
Well, I would say crooks and failures in other industries comes to new one first. So we have had our share already.
Yeah, definitely.
Saying for with this part, I think that the problem for them would be the ones who have worked heavily with Azubu, like CLG, with maybe Riot to some extent, and I think that will reflect how you should maybe treat it, because you don't want to be involved in bad business. But someone in the chat also mentioned Moscow 5, that the CEO or owner of Moscow 5 got arrested by FBI. I mean, Moscow 5 was so strong and so important, but I still don't think that the people involved with Moscow 5 got so damaged from it, and I don't see that the Russian esport has taken heavily hit anyway. So
okay, well, I mean, I think it kind of begs the question then, from a standpoint of esports or any business, but of course esports is our business. There have been questions about Azubu now for months and months, right? And just earlier this year, easily I feel like an investigation could have been some people could be investigating Azubu and figuring out all this stuff out that we know right now, and more, probably much more, right? So the question is that our culture right now in esports, just to not ask questions as long as people are paying the money? And this is a little bit like much deeper than kind of like that article you wrote, Richard, about just the pizza thing, right? Because right now there is it's like, as long as they're paying me, I'm not going to ask questions. If I don't ask questions, I won't get in trouble. You know what I mean? It's pretty much that type of mentality.
You can't gain access to this sort of stuff though. This is where being an investigative journalist within esports is extremely difficult, because there's still this massive degree of separation from community people and the business side of things. Again, people are talking about Raid Call. Well, how do Raid Call make their money? Great fucking question. I reached out to Raid Call and said, I've got some questions about your business. And they were like, oh, we'd love to answer them. We'd love to. I was like, great, okay, first question, how do you make your money? Never heard anything from them. This is 5 months ago. I email them all the time. It was like, is that one question off limits? Can I ask another question? Nothing. And there's obviously reasons why people want to be very private about high-end esports business. And you're absolutely right. I mean, look, I consider myself to be a solid journalist. I know how to do digging. I know, I've done it for a long time. I couldn't get close to this. It would almost certainly need to be someone from inside of Korea, and it would probably need to be a mainstream journalist or a business journalist, someone with like real high-end access.
Sure, but if you're doing business with them, I feel like that it should be a priority to do that, because I'll give you an example. Like Raid Call is a good, that's a good example, because Raid Call came asking me, to do some type of thing, just with some type of relationship or contract or something where they would pay me if I were to promote Raid Call or have a channel and all that business, right? So even me, like just a small content producer, I tried to look into it. I tried to call their offices, and there's kind of that too good to be true mentality. Anything that's too good to be true, like, is almost always not true, right? So and obviously they were offering to pay a lot. So I kind of looked into it, but even though I didn't see any like distinct red flags, it's still, for me, like the information that I was privy to, I just didn't feel comfortable enough doing it, even though there was no giant red flag. So I just didn't do it, and that's me, like doing like very small business with a company. I mean, people that we're talking like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars with Azubu, I figured they would be in the same group. So either they know more than we all do, or they're kind of with that same mentality I'm talking about, where it's just like, okay, as long as they're paying me, I'm not going to ask questions.
There's a culture in esports, right? And everyone knows this. It's kind of like politics. It's the only area where there is actually some similarities. And that is, no one asks where the money comes from. Like, no one gives a fuck ultimately at the end of the day, because you never know when the next paycheck's coming along. So, everyone in esports is just like, as long as it's there and it's real and I can touch it and I can spend it, I don't want to know anything else. And I think that's been a culture in esports now for a long time. I mean, probably it's the last 8 years. I mean, it's just, I understand why it's there, but it's not ethically sound.
And I think for some of us, Richard, because us older folks with bald heads who've gone through this, we've gone through it before, and it's like, it is what it is. We know this is going to happen. It's just, and then in a way, because we've been jaded by it, or because it has happened before, even though we continue to fight against it, we just look at it and go, well, this is just another example of the same old shit happening in our community, in our industry.
Well, so I just want to clarify that I'm not saying anything bad about Raid Call here. Okay, I'm just saying, like, my experience with the limited amount of information I could get. That's kind of my decision, right? It has nothing to do with generally how Raid Call is like that or blah blah blah. So don't take it that way, guys. I'm just trying to throw out an example of just like businesses that do even more money exchange with these companies should be like, they should have full knowledge of whether they're legit or not, I just think that it's crazy.
I agree with what Richard said. Like, normally you don't question where the money come from. Yeah. I would say though that the way that DreamHack normally works with a new partner or new sponsor is that we start kind of small, like go for one tournament or going for like a sub-sponsor of a tournament, and then you can work up a relationship. And I think that, for example, Raid Call, mainly what they've done is go like title sponsors, going big in tournaments and so on, and maybe like taking the wall sponsorship, and maybe that's where it didn't really work out so far with DreamHack, why we haven't worked with Raid Call. But I think that it's a Chinese company also, so they work in a different way, and I actually don't know how big their revenues are. And if it's profitable or not, or what their future business plan are. But I wouldn't put Azubu and the Raid Call at all in the same category. But I mean, you can go. I'm not familiar so much to it, but there were a lot of reactions with Papa John's also with this pizza. That, I mean, maybe not what you actually with your business want to be associated with, because they have a bad rumor with stuff. But not a bad rumor. They did some big flaws with the business. Yeah. So,
well, I mean was it big flaws with the business, or just the CEO just making a statement about politics more so than anything else? I mean,
I think what we're getting into is that there is this sliding ethical scale, and all businesses at some point, all industries need to mature and start actually looking at things from an ethical standpoint. I took a lot of heat for saying maybe Papa John's isn't a company that we want in esports. And a lot of people seem to be of the opinion that I don't give a fuck, I just eat pizza. So that's cool. If you want to be that guy and you're happy about that, that's fine. No one's like trying to press upon you your right to choose what you do with your money. But I think when we're talking about, say, for example, ethical concerns about treatment of, human beings, work rights, labor rights, healthcare rights, these kind of things, companies that abuse them, we need to now start seriously saying, well, actually, esports isn't niche anymore. There's a lot of money being generated, as proven by the success of the Papa John's campaign. And I think we all need to really start looking at, well, what companies do we want to make money for, not what companies do we want to take money from. Yeah, but I mean, and it's definitely off the beaten path. But one of the things I definitely want to just chip in there was a lot of people said at that time, well, what about, manufacturers of headsets and, using cheap Asian labor and sweatshop conditions and this sort of thing. And you know what? They're absolutely fucking right. And if someone could present some evidence about, how the average headset was made or something like that, I think that'd be really interesting too, because I think we're definitely getting to the stage now as a business where, we need to start questioning, where's this money coming from? Because how can our industry be sustainable if people are using it for money laundering, if all the people who are putting money into it are unethical and probably wouldn't get to put money into anywhere else? All we're doing is setting ourselves up for a big fall in 5 years' time. I wouldn't want to see that happen again, because I've already lived through one esports apocalypse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think just overall, I guess it would be what the community thinks and believe of the different companies and like the morale of the public, so to speak. And I think it's kind of cynical, because it's always going to be like, okay, now McDonald's is the worst company in the world, don't go and eat there. And the next time it's this company and this company. I mean, you can't buy clothes with probably not having young laborers or like some unethical parts. So, I mean, it's hard to live in the Western world and be morally correct, I would say, though. But you can do your best at least, and you can pick and choose of what you know.
Yeah. So anyways, just to kind of close out this topic, really just a matter of judging where exactly we are in the form of esports, where we tolerate, do we care where the money comes from, and I think it's like you said, Richard, I think we're getting to the point where, we should start asking questions, and particularly in the case of companies that are putting a lot of money into it. So we'll kind of see how this all plays out. I think we'll probably find out more information, I'm sure, in the near future, given some of this stuff is coming out now. People are going to be on it, journalistically or whatever, right?
And just to tie what we've all been saying too, StarCraft 2, we've all said what fans of Violet we are. Mm-hmm. I've followed Violet's career before he was a known player. One of our writers, Jeff, was like, this kid's going to be huge. And we were one of the first websites to kind of like write articles about him and to big him up. And people were saying this guy's a nobody when we were doing it. And, if anyone knows the story about him, what with the house fire and him having to go out and become a professional player to provide money for his family and stuff, and just how much he has vested in StarCraft 2. I'd hate to see a player like that earnest, that honest, that decent get fucking burned by a bunch of money launderers, man. That would suck so much. So I'm hoping what's going to happen like in the next few weeks is there's going to be a definitive statement from Azubu where it's a bit more transparent. We start to see degrees of separation from the people who are alleged to have perpetrated wrongdoings in the actual business, because people's lives are going to be impacted upon if it isn't the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that was a doozy for our first topic, right? That's what I mean, man. These topics are too juicy to like pass up, so we gotta talk about them. All right, next up, we got CBSi or Twitch and MLG, like hiring their own, adding more sales staff, and it seems like more of a separation from the CBSi deal that they had, they announced last year, right? And in particularly, we're talking about here. Let me switch over. In particular, we're talking about MLG hiring Donald Riley as their senior VP of sales, and I think his main priority will be global sales, or increasing global sales. And I think MLG's not cutting ties completely with CBSi, but Twitch seems to be, at least from the sales standpoint, of having their ad sales go through CBSi. So I think they're going to be cutting that off completely. Yeah, they're going to still be doing some other things with CBSi, but that's a pretty big statement because we were all, I think everybody in the industry was very excited when these companies started partnering with CBSi, given that CBSi has a great portfolio, right, of advertisers they can access to, right. But given that this is happening right now, it's kind of clear that they were disappointed. At least Twitch and MLG were probably disappointed with the results. So they're kind of having to, I think, make their own moves. What are your thoughts on that? Hellspawn, you go.
Yeah, I was also excited when they came along, and I would say that the CBSi, like the one who was handling from their side, Simon, like Whitcomb or something like that, I think he left the company quite a lot of months ago, and I was really impressed with that guy and felt like he was the initiative from their side. He read up on everything and really knew what esports were about and how to market it, and I think that maybe is translated to this partnership ending. Also, I think that a problem for, like, let's say Twitch is that you have this big company, then you have like the company, like the PR company for that company, and then you have money to CBSi, and then you have money from CBI to Twitch, from Twitch to the caster or broadcaster. So I think also getting one step up in the food chain so you can get some more money from that CPM, it's important. And I actually think that the big cuts are prior to coming to Twitch. So I think it's a good deal in that part, and I think that Twitch, as they say, they can be the best in marketing themselves and the content that are on the site. I think what I would like more to see from Twitch is that maybe they should separate it, like premium content, big tournaments like that. That should have a higher CPM value, which Twitch go out to sell, compared to some like dude just sitting in his t-shirt and streaming.
Hey, what's wrong with that?
Like that, but I think that they can do a lot with that to earn even more revenues. But I mean, just to go a little bit deeper into it, I think that there is a double-edged sword that is bad for Twitch. That the companies that buy ads, they want to pay less. So they go to Google and YouTube because they have unlimited content.
Mm-hmm.
They can just sell how many ads they want. And then they have the streamers who want more CPM. So if you lower it, you both want to go in a different direction. So I think that's like Twitch challenge in that part. Where you have like Google just absorbing all the ads in the world.
Yeah, I think categorizing the content would be a better way for Twitch to possibly make more revenue. That's true. John, what do you think?
I don't care.
You don't care.
No, I do. You know what's funny is when the whole CBSi thing was first announced, I had my reservations, but I was being fair in the fact that it was one of those things where you just kind of wait and see what happens. And honestly, you just haven't seen much. It doesn't really surprise me. It makes sense, especially after reading the article. It just makes sense that the best opportunity for you to increase your own ad sales is to have people that are dedicated and understand your vision better than a third party. So I'm part of the wait and see tribe. Somebody in chat is writing. I am, though. I didn't want to get too wrapped up into it. Trust me, I'll have opinions on certain things, but this was just one of those things where I didn't know enough about it. There didn't seem to be a lot of details. There were enough, I think, to get people interested, but right now, it's for me. I don't even know what to think of it or what's going to happen. I'd like to see Twitch continue to grow. I'd love to see MLG continue to grow, and if they feel that's the best way to do it, then I think it's great for them.
Yeah, Richard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Well, I think it's real interesting, actually. I think first of all, what a massive turnaround from the trumpeting and the fanfare that the deal was met with, when CBS Interactive, got involved in esports, and MLG were pumping it out there, like, look what we've achieved. And I just got the announcement in front of me, talking about all the things that were going to happen, the figures, these impressive numbers, 25 million audience viewers, 50 million hours of content online. No. It was like, everyone was like, wow, this is it, man. We're all going to be fucking mainstream. But I think what this turnaround actually represents now is a realization, not on the part, it's nothing to do with like the TV networks. It's about us internally within esports. You know, we've realized now, actually, we don't need these guys as much as what we thought we did. We can actually do very well without them. We don't need to pander to the mainstream because we've now got that infrastructure to reach out to our key demographic directly, and we've got a revenue platform. So I think MLG have definitely looked at it and analyzed everything, and they've thought, you know, we're absolutely better off taking a different direction, you know, and not working with them as much. We're not putting everything, you know, kind of all in one basket. And you know, I've got no doubt that this is going to be the better way to go. That this is going to be more lucrative. The idea of chasing this TV dream of getting esports content on TV, what we need to realize is that on the internet, the reach we've got is amazing. On television, we're always going to be niche. And the way television works, the return you're going to see. I mean, I wish Scoots was here because he could probably give you some actual figures. But, you know, the return you're going to see, you know, it's not good enough. But when we're doing it through the net and the reach we've got and direct, you know, we're beaming stuff out direct to the people we know want to see it, it is going to work out a hell of a lot better for a lot of people. And yeah, that's a realization that's happening across esports as a whole now. Many luminaries have said it. We don't need to pander to the mainstream anymore. We don't need to be chasing television. If anything, what's going to happen is television's going to copy the esports model of what we're doing with streaming broadcasting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think this...
I would say that...
Go ahead.
Just that with, like, esports need TV, I think what people mean is that esports need TV ads. Like, the money that they brought into TV, that's what we need.
Yeah.
And also, with all of this, I just would recommend from the Next Web, this Alex Willem. I think that the last two, like, articles/interviews he's done has been really great. I think one of the better ones in, like, traditional media.
Yeah.
So look that up, I would say, from the Next Web. I think he brought out some good points with it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is Alex Willem. I'm kind of showing the article right here. You know, I'll just throw in a few comments. I think this step was necessary, though. You know, this partnership obviously had a lot of fanfare, like you said, Richard, and it didn't quite work out, you know, with the best case scenario. But I think it was really, really necessary because, the companies are still working with CBSi. I mean, it's not like they're cut ties completely and it's ended really poorly. And secondly, I think just throughout the year, I mean, the contact lists for Twitch's sales team and MLG's sales team has probably, you know, tripled, exponentially grown with a lot of large sponsors, right? So I think just having that accessibility now for Twitch and MLG too, having some relationships maybe with some of these potential partners through CBSi is probably gotten them to the point where they can do it themselves now. And also they have been to a lot of events. They are on all the big fairs. They're always having a big booth. They're always doing it together with partners, with publishers. So they already have established like a high quality partnership with a lot of different companies, I would say. So yeah.
But of course, hiring a whole sales team is extremely expensive, and normally the problem you have is the inventory and the content. However, Twitch is so dominant right now, so they do have quite a lot they can sell on.
That's true. Very, very true. All right. Let's see. Let's move on. Next thing I have here is actually going back to the web view. Is Evil Geniuses picking up Libo Chang, or aka Xenocider for all of you North American fans out there? And I kind of want to bring this up just because, of course, you know, Evil Geniuses, I think we've all known, hasn't had a record of picking up potential talent as much as established talent, which you know, has always seemed to be their type of strategy. Which nothing wrong with that. You know, there's nothing wrong with buying talent that is already cultivated, right? But with the last pickup, which was Suppy, right, and the last North American pickup, it was just Suppy, and now with Xenocider, I mean, they're kind of showing signs that they are trying to at least have, you know, pick up some talent and maybe try to foster them or grow them or build them up from the ground, you know, just from kind of square one. So, what do you think? What do you guys think about this pickup? John, I'll let you go first since you've been going
Okay.
last every time.
Yeah, well, actually, you know, and you remember we were having a conversation the other day just about other things, and I had noticed that on Team Liquid, I do find time to check Team Liquid a few times a day, and that was one of the things that popped out at me, and not because, you know, I'm able to really understand everything that's going on in the StarCraft 2 community, but Xenocider was someone that had played in some events that I had previously ran, and it was always, you know, I mean, he was never maybe towards the finals he'd make it and then he'd fizzle out, but he was always very supportive, and we always supported kind of just helping him get his name out there. And then seeing that he was picked up by EG, I thought, wow, that's a pretty big deal. And for me, somebody being, you know, not a person that's huge into StarCraft. You know, obviously I'm into a lot of different games and understanding them. But for me, I thought it was really interesting because it was someone that didn't have already a huge name and a huge following. And so I was actually really impressed by the pickup. I thought it was really cool. You know, obviously the first thing I was thinking was, whoa, you know, they're cutting their budget or something like that. But, you know, in talking with you, well, I mean, you know, honestly, that probably came to some people's mind, but I actually thought it was really cool, and I think it's great for him, and I think we need more of that in on the teams and in esports in general.
So you're telling me that you think that it's a budget cuts where they're cutting Idra and they're cutting Savano and they're picking up Xenocider. Is that what we're talking?
I said that came across my mind. I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened. I don't really know, but I actually just think for the fact that it caught my eye, I think was a really good thing because you know, I look more at the political type of stuff, you know, the structure and tournaments and stuff that are happening as opposed to some of the players. And when I see this pickup, and knowing that he played in some of our events and was never really like a big name player, I just thought it was really good that EG had picked him up.
You guys jump in.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, my take on it was, like, first I want to say I'm happy for the player. Like, I think it must be great for any kid to like be able to, you know, and as they said in the statement, he'd written to us before and saying how he aspired to play for us. So I think it's safe to say for him it's a fairy tale, and you know that's great, right? You know, and nothing I'm about to say should, you know, it's not bad about him, but clearly there's a big shift in focus from EG, and I see this as a smart but somewhat cynical pickup because. What they're doing now with EG is they're losing their big names. We've seen that across the board. I don't think they really want to invest their money quite so much in StarCraft 2 anymore because they realise that they're already starting to kind of lose some of their big draws, if you like, the marquee EG players and the marquee EG personalities. And there definitely needs to be a distinction between the two, but they've lost quite a lot. What you do when you pick up a young player and say, we're going to develop him, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, is you bring him into the fold. He immediately gets super popular because everyone's like, what's all the hype about this kid? You know, and we've seen it a million times with, you know, in all esports, you know, very, you know, above average players, no doubt, but above average 15-year-olds who've got the potential to be something special, and you pick it up and then all of a sudden everyone's expecting them to already be the finished article, everyone wants to know who they are, they all swarm around him, you get the attention, the org reaps the benefits, and it's not even a gamble because, you know, will they have a structured plan for development in place for him? Nah, it'll be business as usual, of course it will, and in the meantime you get to pay some kid next to nothing if he has a, you know, if he's got a contract at all. I mean, I don't even know the rules.
I'm sure it's EG. Of course he has a contract.
They do everything proper, but they're gonna have to get parental buy-in. You know, there's a lot of it's not so black and white as what it is when you go to an established player, when you pick up a young player. And you know, everyone knows it's a joke among managers that when you pick up a young player, you can pretty much, you know, here's some magic beans, here's a t-shirt, you get to wear our tag, and they're just stoked about it. You know, they're not looking at it. You know, what does a 15-year-old need to spend money on? Right? He doesn't need to pay the rent. You know, it doesn't, you know, he's not like an 18-year-old player or a 21-year-old student. So it's a completely different, you know, set of kind of things around him. I know EG are aware of this. I just feel now that for them, the focus is definitely their LoL team, definitely their, you know, Dota 2 team. We are starting to see a kind of general degradation of the StarCraft 2 presence. And what they're going to do in the meantime is, why not bring in a few, younger players, get hyped about them. If they turn out to be something amazing, brilliant. But if they don't, what have we really lost? And
Right.
I'm sure that's the calculation that the EG management have put into picking this guy up. So, I'm sure the community will love it, and I'm sure he'll love it. But it has got an air of cynicism about it for me.
Hellspawn,
Well,
what do you think?
I agree with Richard that I think that to some extent they're shifting the focus, but I wouldn't count maybe everything into what he said. I think though what they try to maybe do is to get a little bit away from this kind of thing that EG just comes in and buys everything and here's this big money. So they're trying to get a little bit better reputation maybe. But I think that maybe the community is giving them some bad credits. Look at their Counter-Strike team. They had them for ages, even though Counter-Strike in North America died. They still have nothing on their team. Look at the World of Warcraft players. They still have the World of Warcraft players on the team. They brought in like Isaac, Acel, and did like StarCraft 2 commentary and so on. But still, these big World of Warcraft profiles who gets maybe 2,000 stream viewers still are involved with EG. The Dota players, they played actually in Dota 1, and like they kept these players, or they moved them over from their home team. So, and I mean, In Control and these guys, they played in Brute War, didn't they, in EG? And then StarCraft 2 came out. So, I mean, I would say that EG is one, like, when you are involved with the EG family, or whatever they maybe call it, still, like, they stick to their guns. I mean, you forget they have Justin Wong and the Street Fighter player, so...
Right.
I don't see it really like that, but I do think, picking up Sappy and Xenocider is a good move for them. However, there are less tournaments in America, so I don't really know the platform for it. But what I see that EG maybe are doing, if they want to like cut down cost, is that they expand in Korea with their team and with the Pro League. They expand with building a studio in San Francisco. They expand in many different. They have the alliance, so they do a different kind of things, and maybe they want to put some money away from StarCraft 2. I think that could be smart.
I think as well with the
shift players.
There's been a big shift in focus as well of kind of like, I know, like I think people are moving away from like the idea of the marquee, like what with WCS being here, and there's definitely kind of a trend at the moment where people are wanting to develop younger talent and develop homegrown talent from wherever it is. You're seeing that a lot with organizations now actually being lauded for doing it. So there's definitely a vibe like that right now in StarCraft, where I think it's like you got so many big names going out of it, or just already established. Like to try and help get some new players come into it is definitely something that a lot of organizations is doing, especially North American organizations.
Yeah. Okay, so
I would though add on it that I think that WCS really didn't play into EG's hands, because I think that if they knew about WCS, I don't think that they would invest in Korean players. I don't think that they would invest in Pro League. I think instead they would just buy the best American players and try to nourish them and get the most market value out of it. I would have done it maybe. I don't know, maybe they knew about WCS prior to announcement.
Nobody knew about WCS prior to announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
I don't think teams knew, at least. I don't think teams.
I don't think so.
Or maybe they just see that Pro League, we can bring in sponsor dollars in Korea and in the Asian countries too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the way WCS has been executed, I think it might have been a drunken bet from someone in Blizzard. Though,
jeez.
No, it's serious. Come on, man. It's fucking haphazard, to be honest about it. Like,
well, I'm sure it's a million times more complicated than we know, but getting back to the Xenocider thing, I
so diplomatic.
He didn't get much of the topic.
No. So Xenocider, like I probably know Xenocider better than I think all three of us. So I'm actually really happy about this, and I'm really happy about just the general trend recently, which is kind of a strategic change for some of these teams. And you guys are absolutely right. I think it is more towards the line of investing less and trying to, maybe develop some of these players homegrown. I mean, there's a wide open space to take right now, which is NA. Whether it's from a marketing standpoint or from a competitive, like we have Koreans coming over and taking it, right? So, I mean, the whole kind of marketing standpoint, promo standpoint is there for the taking, and for tournament organizers too. So people should be stepping up there too. But so having EG kind of do that, that's really smart in their part. And for me, as a person that wants to build NA, it's a great thing, man. Having like Complexity pick up Hendralisk, and now EG picking up Xenocider. I mean, Root took all the other guys, okay? Root took Masa and all the other great talent. So,
that's smart.
Yeah, it wasn't too much left for those guys. So them picking up a little bit of the last, and there's still some other talents out there too, but some of the two, at least from the top, maybe 5 or 6 of them, that's really, really great sign. And I'm happy for Leba, even though he is a young guy, but having Cody and Alex kind of share just the fact, just kind of the process of which he took it upon himself to like be proactive about trying to get on EG. I mean, what players right now in the ladder would actually think that would even bother going and writing Alex and Cody like every few months, trying to revisit this, because it just seems like an impossibility to them. So having him be proactive like that.
Up to Cody and like, hello, this is me. Like, I really would like to join EG after writing those 3-4 emails already. So he seems to be a really cool guy, and he's coming to DreamHack just this next week. I mean, if he could maybe go to a third group stage, beating some of the big names, I mean, then already the investment has paid off. Maybe he can do the MSG, the open bracket. Maybe he can even get into a Premier League in like Season 2, Season 3. I mean, whatever he does and whatever he achieves, like, he's 15 years old, right?
Yeah. He might be 16. He was 15 when I met him, so he's got to be older than 15 now. I think he's 16,
so,
maybe 17.
Whatever he does and whatever he achieves, if he achieves something, it would be a good payoff for EG, I would say, and of course for himself. So
he's a good player, guys. Nice. Like Lebo is a good player. I remember watching him play Revival like every week on Play-Em. I mean, and he would give Revival some great games. So he's. I mean, that was like a long time ago. I mean, we've seen what his results are recently in WCS and stuff like that. So he's a good player. He has a lot of potential, and he, if he does get a chance to practice against just people who are Korean players and get a chance to play in bigger tournaments, who knows? That'd be great. But okay, so a good segue from the Xenocider is going into this topic about stream discovery, and the reason why I kind of had this come right after Xenocider is because there was an interesting Twitter conversation that was happening yesterday between Azubu and In Control and I think Hayoka and a few others, maybe Nathanius, and I jumped in on it. And it was basically talking about the fact that Xenocider got TL featured. His stream got TL featured immediately after he got signed, basically. And so Azubu, I think, posed the question, why does he get featured just because he got signed by EG? When obviously Xenocider, I mean, there's nothing changed except for the fact he has EG in front of his name now, right? And for the most part. So,
that's
definitely spawned
an reason, I would say. That's good enough reason.
Okay, so let's talk about it a little bit. What do you guys think? I mean, obviously Hellspawn thinks it's justified.
Justified that he got front page or featured right away?
Yeah, well, yeah. And I mean, this discussion is really about just featured in general, like how featured is determined at this point, and just what is valued. I guess what is considered featured in the terms of whether it's
I mean,
right.
Chris, you and I have talked about this as far as what they put on the front page of Twitch, and I should probably be careful because we might be front page now and then all of a sudden lose it. But again, I mean, it's the company's call, and in this case, it's Team Liquid's call, and they just decided it was worth featuring. I really don't have an issue with that. I don't think it's something that we can complain about unless there's some sort of algorithm in place that says this is how we're going to determine what gets featured, and then all of a sudden they decide to trump that based on their own, their own decision to do so. Then it's like, hey, you set this up. We thought it was going to be one way, and all of a sudden you're featuring some guy that other people in line were ready to be featured for. I don't really have a problem with it either.
It's a tough one because it's one of those things where it can have the same outcome, but the rationale behind doing it is everything. When it comes to the, so right, if they're doing it because it's topical, and people are going to be like, "Who's this dude? He's in the news. I want to see his stream." That's cool. Like, I don't think anyone would have a problem with that, because, you know, that question is going to be asked, and if you're a news outlet or a broadcasting platform of any kind, you need to help answer that question. You'd be fools not to do it, and you'd actually be doing the community a disservice for not doing it. If, however, it's like a case of, you know, EG going, we've got this new kid, we want to give him a big push, you know, so we can maybe get him some extra traffic hits and get a bit more revenue for justifying the pickup in the first place. And, you know, we've lost Idra and we're losing Stefano and rah. So really help us out. And TL go, yeah, sure, man, because you give us, like, you know, interviews and lots of content. And if Twitch go, yeah, sure, because, you know, there's some money changing hands or there's some nepotism going on, then it's wrong. But the outcome's the same, and we'll probably never know exactly what the rationale behind it is. So when it comes to the topic of stream discovery, you know, it's one of those things where it's like you cannot have a problem with the end result, but the kind of what's going on behind it, like who's pulling the strings and for what reasons, that's where it can be, you know, objectionable, quite questionable.
Yeah, and, you know, this is Team Liquid's site. They can do whatever they want with it. Nobody's arguing against that.
I wouldn't put it at all like that.
I'm just like,
that's
okay.
not the Liquid I see. It's the community site. I mean,
okay, so
Liquid always have the problem that what they do is not from like a financial or economic way or everything. It's what the community want, and they do have a lot of problems how to act. But I think that in the way that I would put it is that if Manchester signed a 15-year-old, put him in the A team, and then he's practicing home, I mean, all the newspaper would embed him on the stream front page. I mean, Richard Lewis should have Xenocider, his stream on top of Cadred right now, and look at this new guy. He's the super talent. This is the future. This is what EG, the biggest team in the world, going after. This is where they putting the money and their time into. So I don't think so.
Okay, so this is what I would post, right? You're right that I mean, TL does a great job of representing the community. I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm just saying when it comes down to it, their mods and their editors and, you know, Hotbit, whoever it is, they decide in the end what goes on that feature list. And because the way that people try to get on the features, they go and they write their explanations to certain people on TL, and that's how they have to try to get them on. And that's the process. There's what was that? Oh.
Yeah, you cut out.
Sorry,
for a minute.
you literally, like, again, you completely
really?
cut out for your point. Every time you make a good point,
did I?
You just cut out, bro. It's like you've got inbuilt, like, sense detect.
Well, okay. Well,
the eSport gods
exactly, man. Somebody at Twitch or somebody is like, oh, shut this guy up. No, I'm just kidding. No, but
Twitch DDoS, yo.
Exactly. No, but I think they heard me actually. I think Skype might have just had an issue. But the point is that we're only talking about because it's so important. There's just no stream discovery, especially for StarCraft 2 players right now, outside of TL. That's like the best way, right? And featured just happens to be the list. So for me, like the problem I have with the current way that TL is structured is that I think it's wrong to just have one list, because everybody's in this one pool, and it's like this pool has multiple meanings. This pool has the meanings of y'all's videos. John and Richard's videos are kind of Richard's videos still are present, but my thing is that this one list has multiple meanings. Some part of it is the popular players, you know what I mean, and totally understand why these people are on there. I'm not complaining about majority of the folks that are on there. They should be on there. They're popular. People want to watch them, so they should be on there. But I feel like when you're calling it featured, featured to me has more of a short-term connotation to it. It has more of a revolving door to it. It's like what's hot right now kind of thing for me. So Xenocider on it this week? Absolutely, dude. He should be on it for like 1 or 2 weeks. I can totally get that. But as we know, I don't ever see anybody not get knocked off of featured. It just doesn't happen very often. I mean, I see some guys that aren't even relevant in the StarCraft 2 community anymore, and yet they're still unfeatured whenever they show.
That could just be a lack of Team Liquid not completely having that set up and marketed and handled and cultivated well enough. I mean, these are great ideas that we're talking about now. It's very possible that somebody's tuning in and they're like, you know what?
That's what
We do kind of need to clean up this shitstorm, you know? I mean, this is kind of messy. There's not really much to it. We haven't defined it clearly. So I can definitely see where you're going with that.
Yeah, I mean, even...
I think, do Team Liquid want, right? I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, if you're a community website, and, like, you know, CAD was once upon a time a community website for a game that obviously doesn't exist anymore competitively. So I'm familiar with the internal dialogue you have to have on a daily basis about, you know, what decisions you have to make. Now, for me, the question boils down to, do Team Liquid have a responsibility to allow the site they've built up to be used to give other people a push, effectively leeching their traffic for their own ends? Now, if you think they do, then they do a terrible job of it. If you think they don't, then what they're doing is absolutely fine. Now, it's a massive question, because it's like what Hellspawn said. As far as he's concerned, it's a community-owned website. It belongs to the community. But actually, you know, the reality is it doesn't. And we can use it and we can interact on it, but we do so under some very, you know, implicit terms. Now, I've had this with Team Liquid before. You know, I had to beg Hotbid himself on Skype just to be allowed to post my interviews, because I wasn't a known guy, and I was like, I'm doing these interviews. It's StarCraft 2 related. It's great content. I'm linking directly to the YouTube. We don't monetize it. We get nothing for it. It's just literally to get the content out there. And I had to beg for that. I mean, like, every admin that came along shut it down. And then it was, you have to make one thread for all the interviews, which is ridiculous because no one looks at those threads. Whereas if I post one video interview, it's the difference between getting 2,000 hits or 20,000 hits. You know? Now, again, I'm not bothered about the hits per se, but if Team Liquid has a responsibility to get content out there, then obviously why enforce a rule that makes no difference in the grand scheme of things? And, you know, ultimately, the question just is, do they have a responsibility to A, promote unknown players' streams, to B, you know, like, kind of be, you know, having a quality tip going on.
It's not a responsibility. It has nothing to do with responsibility. It has to do with what...
Well, it has to. It has to be something abstract. No, because ultimately, it's their site, so they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, but
the problem is that Team Liquid is such a mighty site, or at least used to be. I would say that 2 years ago, Team Liquid was so much more important than it is today. 2 years ago, it was that either your stream or your event as a DreamHack had maybe it was 10, 20, 50,000 more impact being featured and being like recognized all over Team Liquid. So I think, like, for example, what Adebisi wrote here, that now MFG has a news item in the community top on the site with their casters, but DreamHack don't, even though DreamHack released it 1 week ago. For me, at this point, I don't care as much as I did 2 years ago, because Reddit, Twitter, other places, Twitch on its own is... I mean, Twitch 1 year ago or 1.5 years ago, no one visited the site. You found the streams through, like, Team Liquid or so on. Maybe today it's not as important, but it is problematic because in the end it's like, okay, can I maybe raise our sponsor money 30% so I can have better prize money, have better protection, because I got 30% more viewers on my tournament over the year because I was all over the place on Team Liquid. So I mean, in the end, it actually cost me money or earned me money how I get featured or not on Team Liquid. And I had the same problems when working with Rakaka, that the way that I actually could go to the events was that people visit my sites and saw my ads. And I mean, Rakaka has never made any money, so it's just trying to grasp some few cents. But I mean, I had troubles with it. But I mean, also my kind of like how I like to integrate in internet is not what Team Liquid is, because it's like a censorship. It's like it's very heavily modernized, and that's not really what I like personally. Even though it gives high quality and it's a nice forum, but maybe not the way that I like to.
Well, see, the thing is like, talking from the business standpoint is one thing. You know, how we utilize TL as a marketing channel and that stuff is completely like a different thing. what I'm trying to get at is just like the whole community side of it. Like if they are the community site and they're supposed to be representing what the community wants, which I do think they do a great job. I think the TL staff's amazing. I think they're just great, but the thing is that I just feel like there could definitely be improvements to that because it's just a matter of just the connotation of it. Because if they are the community site, and let's just say the streams that they're showing are the ones that the community wants to see or what they believe it is, then I mean it's not that hard to put in a system that actually allows us to have some input on what we want to see. Right now right now it just feels a little bit like it's editorialized or it's just subjective to whoever controls it, right? Now. But so I mean they could put in a system, it would require a little code, sure, but they could put in a system that where we actually do choose the people that we want to see, right? And that would be like, okay, I could totally get the community side of that. So that's why for me it's just like if you don't want to go into that effort, then at least like change the connotations of the word featured. Break it up.
Yeah, but
break it up into popular. Call it a popular list or call it whatever.
But see, what we're talking about there, Chris, is right. If Team Liquid were to surrender that power, right? Like that's a major
thing. They're not getting
thing
paid for
any
that,
website.
Dude. They're not getting paid for that.
It's not about that. It's about being able to go to people and use it as a bargaining chip whenever it might come along, and if you think that doesn't go on, again, of course it does. Of course it does. When you can say to somebody, man, I can put your stream here. So, right, content at the moment, like Reddit's fucking everyone over. Like big time, it's not been a great thing for news websites or community websites or sites that produce content of any kind. You think it would be, but it actually isn't. And again, to give you an example, just the other day, someone copy pasted an entire article from Cadred, put it on a forum so they know in a thread, so no one had to come to Cadred to read it. I went to the admins like, can you take this down? That here's the kind of rules about what's breaking. And admins go, we don't get involved with that. If they're not breaking Reddit rules, we don't care. So it's not there to drive content to your website. It's there to fucking be one homogenous place where people can go and know they're going to get it. And it can drive content to your website if you're lucky. All of these news websites at the moment are desperately trying to cling or whatever bargaining chips they got. And if one of them is, I can put you on a featured stream list and it's going to give you an extra 10K, 20K, whatever the fuck it is, you don't surrender that by giving that to the community to make people popular, because you've just made yourself even weaker in a time when news websites and content websites are weak.
Are they actually using it as a bargaining chip? I mean, because we don't know that.
I'm not saying they are, but it certainly can be used that way.
Sure.
And if I can see that, they know that. So if they know that, then...
And Chris, you were talking about popular. I mean, that's something that over at IGL that we're working on as well. Like users and competitors on the website can be tracked or followed, and matches can be tracked and followed. Then the most popular matches would then get front page, like featured. They'd get a little icon on the front page with information about the match or their team or whatever it may be. But there's always exploits to that too. I mean, just like in why they put a big kibosh on, sharing your, asking for upvotes is because, when you make it about popularity, then it's always usually about
okay, so I'm not talking necessarily about a feedback system as much as something like just rank them by viewership right now. There's a lot of things that do it. The rich get richer, sure, but at least that makes sense. That list is what everybody's watching right now. So I totally get it. All the ink controls and the demuzzles and the grub, that didn't change. Nothing changes about that. Those guys are still going to be on the list. It's just it's ranked by viewership, and I
but if
understand
you do it ranked by viewership, how does that?
No,
then that's what we've got at the moment.
Yeah, so if you want to do something else that's more featured, where it's like pick of the day or it's editor's pick, whatever you want to call it, like then you have this flexibility that you could throw in some things. I mean,
the work that entails to do that, what you're doing is you need to feel the responsibility to do that. Team Liquid don't, otherwise they would. And to be honest, the whole, like you said, does responsibility enter into the equation? I don't think the Team Liquid guys sit around thinking to themselves, fuck, man, we've got such a prominent place in the StarCraft 2 community. We must use this site for good and do what is right. Fuck that. Of course they don't. They think about selling ads, and they think about forum moderation, and they think, wow, we need some more features writers and all of that bullshit. You don't think about responsibility, It doesn't really enter into it. And for like the examples you're talking about, for a guy to come along and be like, I'm going to take some unknown streamer who I think's really good, put him on the front page, use my time, my resources, the website's resources to promote this guy and hope he takes off for some, because I think he's good and I'd like to see more of it. All these abstract reasons. No one's going to sit down and actually take the time to do that. The reality is stream discovery doesn't need to be driven by websites that are run like businesses. It needs to be driven by community. It needs to be driven by word of mouth. It needs to be people not following trends, actually going balls out and trying to help each other get ahead by promoting their own stuff.
Dude,
and you're not going to do that if you put it in the hands of Team Liquid.
No, that's completely fine. That's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for just more of a generalized list that doesn't have any that much editorial, it's not editorialized. I'm asking for just a ranked by stream number. So if some guy that's unfeatured, let's just say I'm throwing out some, I don't know, let's say Wiedemann's or something like that, right? He's got like a few hundred viewers at night or something, and I'd like to see him. There's nothing going on at night. This featured list has nothing on it at night, so I had to go dig through the unfeatured list just to find who has like a few hundred views at night. I mean, I should be able to see that right up there on the side, on the right side there. This is what's going on at night, right now. And okay, so everybody's watching that. I want to watch that too.
There's a good example of what you're talking about. There's a website, I'm sure anyone who plays... Sorry to bring League of Legends to the table, StarCraft fans. But anyone who follows League of Legends will know it already. lolking.net.
Yeah,
if you're listening to the show now, just bring it up in your browsers. lolking.net. That's all one word, lolking. And if you look at their streams, it's not only does it have a top stream, which is exactly like what you're talking about, Chris, where it's listed by whoever's got the most
and that
viewers,
makes sense.
Sequential, and you'll notice the odd one. I love the odd one.
Always the odd one.
41,000 viewers, by the way. What's up, guys? What's up, esports? But if you click on all streams next to it as well, you can go right down to the bottom, and it's like all streams that are live now, and you'll see some terrible guy. I'll give him a plug. Here you go. Artandor, European West.
I know him.
He's terrible. He's got 0 viewers. Yeah. I could go.
I know that guy. No, I was kidding.
Stop pretending you know all these players.
I'm just kidding.
So I could go and watch his stream, and the access is there. But I don't think LOL King have done that because they feel some responsibility to help LOL get on board. I think it was just a feature they had integrated in their website, and that's how it works. That's what I'm talking about is the difference here. For Team Liquid to code something like that, maybe it isn't a big deal. But they need to feel the responsibility, the pressure to do it, and they don't. Because why would they give a toss? They don't, and that's it. That's what we're talking about.
I just want to sum up my points, and I think I don't agree with Richard at all. I would normally do it what he says that you want to just take the money you can, but actually Team Liquid, from knowing the staff, working with the staff in a way like an organizer or a writer, that they actually mostly they're in for this for the community and to build a good site to provide for the community. Then they do have business sides. They offer some different
like featured streams or featured ads and stuff like that. Yeah,
they do provide some part of that. My problem is that when I put up a tournament, I have to PM this guy, put it in this calendar, doing this and this and this. So it's quite a lot of work compared to other stuff that you do on a regular basis. Like StarCraft is very special for DreamHack, how you want to organize it through Team Liquid, because we don't put that effort into any other site. So maybe that's what I dislike, because it's quite a lot of work, especially just because of Team Liquid. But also should be known that I don't think that they earn that tons of millions of dollars on that site. Even though with the heavy traffic, you don't earn so much from global ads.
Oh yeah, I'm not disputing that. I'm absolutely not disputing. I don't think they're doing an Angel Munoz sat around in mansions, rolling reefers with $50 bills and shit. I don't think that's going on, right? But by the same token, I just don't think we should look at them like altruistic. They sacrifice their time so they can be a cool community hangout, and everything they do so driven and so focused for the community. Because I've been that guy who's provided a community website, and did we put the community first on every decision we made? Fuck no. So there we are. It's out there. The truth is out there. Like,
such an asshole, man. Jeez. God. Maybe...
I don't know. I haven't had my medication tonight, Chris.
all right. That's all right. That's gonna be it for that topic.
But the thing is that most likely, if I wanted to have this caster news, I could have just PM'd them and got it up when I released it. So if I had put that into it, they would have probably been done. If it was newsworthy, that they saw it newsworthy.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to work with them. But I would say like 2 years ago, it was so crucial for me because if I didn't get it up, I got so little exposure because Team Liquid was the only place to go. Now it's easier to spread it with Reddit, with Twitter, but also that Twitch site is so strong and so on and so forth. I don't see them being like the gatekeepers they once were in that way.
Yeah,
I certainly think they can be, though. They just need, Chris said, I think there needs to be some changes. There's some cool things that they could certainly do on the website that would engage users more, give people more opportunity, but they just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I mean, as much as they don't, they kind of claim that to be the community site, right? But at the same time, they have so many different things that they're doing on the site too, so they can't don't have the resources to enhance some things. I mean, when it comes down to it, there are other options like Twitch's Discovery and Reddit and just other things to maybe find streams, but come on, those are a very small percentage, I think, compared to still seeing that featured list on the side there. I think it's still a pretty good amount. I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but actually supporting Richard's kind of claim, just Richard's point. Team Liquid isn't completely a community site because the top left corner, all you see generally is a lot of Team Liquid, the actual TL team, right?
Yep.
You see like all their news, right, or their replay packs that they release, and they have every right to do that. I mean, I've never had an issue with it, but it does kind of show you that it's not like a completely altruistic site, by any means, right? So, it is what it is. It's just a suggestion throwing out there. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be cool to maybe see some of
It's the same way
those.
when they organize tournaments, that their tournaments gets much more exposure than other tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, look at TL Open right now. Look at TL Open right now on the.
I mean,
I gotta say,
just standpoint from that is that a news site, I think, in that regard, shouldn't have a team. They shouldn't run tournaments. They should only be a news site. And I think that Rakaka once did a tournament in StarCraft that I organized, and coming from that, we just saw the problem that we promoted our tournament, of course, much more than any other tournament, and that's bad from kind of website that we want to be, and what I think that the website or news sites should be.
Sure.